Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 12 wide receiver rankings and tiers for the 2024 fantasy football season. But before we can get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. So without further ado, let's get into my top 12 wide receiver rankings and tiers for the 2024 fantasy football season. Again, a reminder, it's beginning of May. It is May 3rd as you're watching this. It is May the 4th be with you tomorrow. Don't take things too seriously. Take things with a grain of salt. They're subject to change up until you do your actual fantasy football draft in late August or early September. So let's get into things. We begin with the S tier at the wide receiver position at number 1 with Tyreek Hill of the Miami Dolphins, current underdog ADP wide receiver 2 at pick 3.3. Now, last season, Tyreek finished as the wide receiver 2 in PPR because he ended up getting hurt up against the Titans. He missed a majority of that game. He missed the game up against the Jets. And then when he did end up returning, he wasn't really himself due to the fact that his explosiveness was lessened by the injury. So 16 games played, he was 3rd in targets, 2nd in receptions, 1st in receiving yards, and 2nd in total touchdowns. In terms of efficiency, he was 5th in target accuracy from Tua Tagovailoa, 1st in yards per route run. He did have a lot of drops last season with 7, a case of the dropsies, but that's not something I really worry about when a guy could get 160 plus targets any given year. And then 1st in terms of route win rate, to me, Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver in the NFL. I know that a lot of people like to throw stones metaphorically at Tua Tagovailoa, and they love to take a dump all over his chest, Cleveland Steamer style. But at the end of the day, I really do think that regardless of what you think about Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill is in a great situation in Miami to repeat as a top 3 wide receiver in terms of points per game, and I think he will finish as the wide receiver 1 at the end of the season. I think last year he would have been the wide receiver 1 had he have not gotten hurt. At number 2, we got CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys, underdog ADP wide receiver 1 at pick 2.2. Now, last season he finished as the wide receiver 1 in PPR as well as in PPR points per game. Playing in 16 games, he was number 1 in targets, number 1 in receptions, number 2 in receiving yards with over 100 receiving yards per game, and 1st in total touchdowns. A lot of people also love to make fun of Dak Prescott, and there are a lot of jokes to be made about him, right? Especially when it comes to his performances in the playoffs. And the fact that the team choked a fat log up against the Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love Me Tender, Love Me Sweet last season. But during the regular season, Dak and CeeDee are like peanut butter and jelly, right? CeeDee Lamb is going to be great yet again. 5th in yards per route run, 9th in dominator rating, 9th in route win rate. To me, you could argue that CeeDee Lamb is the number 1 wide receiver, and I'm not going to sit here in the comment section and have some type of crazy argument with you. The same thing is the case with the wide receiver ranked at number 3, because I believe these guys are all in the same tier together. They are all interchangeable. Again, gun to the head. What am I doing? I'm taking Tyreek, then CeeDee Lamb, then Justin Jefferson. But again, it's not by some crazy wide margin. I think unanimously, basically everyone will agree that these are the top 3 wide receivers in fantasy football entering into this season. There is some debate, though, about a guy that is in the A tier that I actually have ranked 5th. I think some people will have him ranked inside the top 3. At number 3, we got Justin Jefferson of the cold like Minnesota Vikings, underdog ADP wide receiver 4 at pick 5.5. Last year, Justin Jefferson did end up getting hurt. Only 10 games played last year for Jay Jetta's wide receiver 5, though, in PPR points per game. He ranked 35th in targets, 31st in receptions, 19th in terms of receiving yards, and 29th in total touchdowns. But again, he did get hurt. He was averaging 10 targets per game, 6.8 receptions per game. He was averaging 107.4 receiving yards per game. So pretty solid, right? And half a touchdown a game. He was 69th in terms of target accuracy, which, while we like to joke, Borat, very nice, I like 69, super fucking funny, right? But that's really not the best for a receiver, but 4th in yards per route run, 6th in yards per target, and 13th in yards per reception. I think that Justin Jefferson isn't this crazy downgrade that some people might think he is. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I think that J.J. McCarthy is the next Peyton Manning, the next Patrick Mahomes, the next Tom Brady, the next whatever quarterback you believe is like the next Aaron Rodgers, right? I don't think that. But I don't think it takes fucking Michael Jordan, right? Whoever you think is the best NBA player, LeBron, right? I don't think it takes some upper echelon quarterback to force feed the ball to Justin Jefferson. He's a rookie quarterback. He's going to feed one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL. At number 4, starting off the A tier, we begin with Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Detroit Lions, underdog ADP, wide receiver 5 at pick 6.9. Now, I do believe that most people will have Ja'Marr Chase ranked ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I'm going to give my reasoning right now as to why I have Amon-Ra St. Brown ranked higher. Again, it's like splitting hairs. My reasoning is, for one, I know for sure that Joe Burrow could potentially come into the year banged up, right? Just like last year, which could cause a major disaster. And Joe Burrow is a guy that in the past has suffered a couple of injuries. Some people might throw the injury-prone, the injury-riddled tag on him. Now, am I going to say that? No, I'm not going to dub him as that. But when I have some slight worries about the quarterback in Cincinnati, now, obviously, when push comes to shove, Joe Burrow dominates Jared Goff, right? But healthy Jared Goff versus a Joe Burrow that anyone could get hurt. So again, this is just semantics, but this is what plays into my mind when I'm ranking these guys. Hey, I feel a little bit safer with the health of Jared Goff. Now that I say that, right, Jared Goff is going to somehow play like 3 games this year, right? Knock on wood, we don't root for injuries. But at the end of the day, that is genuinely my thought process on things. It's splitting hairs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I believe, is one of the safest wide receivers in fantasy football. We talked about him yesterday in the must-draft wide receiver video, or 2 days ago, I guess that was. Wide receiver 4 in PPR last year, 3 in PPR points per game. 16 games played, 5th in targets, 2nd in receptions, 3rd in receiving yards, and 5th in total touchdowns. Jared Goff is a lot better than people give him credit for. 8th in target accuracy, 7th in yards per out run, 12th in true catch rate, and 5th in contested catch percentage. Amon-Ra St. Brown could easily lead the league in targets this year. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is essentially wrapping a condom, throwing the Trojan over your fantasy football team, and I think that Amon-Ra St. Brown will finish ahead of Ja'Marr Chase, and it wouldn't shock me at all if by the time we get to late August, early September, when I'm rolling out my final version of the rankings, if I have Amon-Ra St. Brown up in that S tier. At number 5, to close out the A tier, we got Ja'Marr Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals, underdog ADP wide receiver 3 at pick 4.1. Now, while it might have sounded like I was kind of besmirching the name of Ja'Marr Chase or that I'm super worried about Ja'Marr Chase, I'm not. But again, the fact that Joe Burrow continues to kind of get banged up year in and year out does concern me, because if Joe Burrow was to go down, again, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, that would really hurt the upside of Ja'Marr Chase. Now, I thought that maybe T. Higgins would be gone in the offseason, but it really does seem like T. Higgins is kind of just trapped there for one more year, so I don't think Ja'Marr Chase is really going to see some crazy uptick in terms of targets per game. Wide receiver 11 last year in PPR, 12 in PPR points per game. Again, when we talk about stats from last season, stats from prior seasons, you have to use context. Context is incredibly important when talking about fantasy football. Ja'Marr Chase was without Joe Burrow for a bunch of games. And Joe Burrow, when he started off the season, wasn't the Joe Burrow that we were used to, because he was coming off of an injury. And this was a Cincinnati Bengals team that was a huge laughingstock in the NFL early on, if you guys can remember. But Joe Burrow, despite the fact that he wasn't the best early on, and then despite the fact that he got hurt, Ja'Marr Chase was still good, right? 16 games played, 11th in targets, 11th in receptions, 12th in receiving yards, 18th in total touchdowns, 9th in target separation, 16th in yards per team pass attempt. Again, Ja'Marr Chase is fucking amazing. He is. But when we have to make these very small decisions from one guy to another in the same tier, what's going to move me to being a little bit more confident in Amon-Ra St. Brown is the health of Jared Goff. Moving now to the B tier, we got just one man in here, and that is Puke Nacua of the LA Rams, underdog ADP, wide receiver 6 at pick 9.5. Now, I was not someone that was all over the Puke Nacua train, right? I wasn't the fucking conductor of the Puke Nacua Express. I was the conductor of the Nico Collins bandwagon, right? I was talking him up. I started to talk about Puke Nacua a little bit more as we got deeper and deeper into drafts, but I would be lying if I told you that I thought Puke Nacua would be that fucking good in his rookie year. Okay? But guess what? We all watched it. Puke Nacua was too legit to quit, right? This guy had defenses in the figure 4. This guy was hitting defenses with the attitude adjustment, okay? Puke Nacua with Cooper Kupp on his team. Cooper Kupp, Puke Nacua took over. He unleashed. He went Super Saiyan. Wide receiver 4 in PPR, 6 in PPR points per game. 17 games played, 7th in targets, 8th in receptions, 4th in receiving yards, 27th in total touchdowns. 6.9 target accuracy, 33rd. So Stafford, not the same Stafford that we're used to, in my opinion, right? Stafford's getting a little bit older. To me, he doesn't look the same as he did when he was hoisting the Lombardi up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Is he washed? Is he completely dog shit? No. No, he's not, but I don't believe that Stafford is the same Stafford from a couple of years ago. But again, Puke Nacua is so good that Stafford doesn't need to be some super elite quarterback for Puka to pay off. 6th in yards per route run, 9th in yards per team pass attempt, and then 26th in dominator rating. Even if Cooper Kupp looks better than he did last year, I still think Puke Nacua is that guy. I think he's going to be the number 1 target. I think another guy that really has that upside to be top 5 in terms of targets and finish as a top 5 wide receiver yet again. So I got him in his own tier here. These first 3 tiers, the S tier, the A tier, the B tier, I am incredibly confident in, right? Even with the slight worries about Joe Burrow and all that with Jamar Chase, I am still elated. I'm still ecstatic to draft Jamar Chase. I'm ecstatic to draft Puke Nacua. Once we get into the C tier, again, these are all guys that I really like, but to me, it feels like there is a drop-off from the B tier, like a much stronger drop-off, in my opinion. So now going to the C tier, we got a couple of guys in here. Wide receivers 7, 8, 9, and 10. If you guys have enjoyed this far, hit that subscribe button down below. Whether you are new to the channel or not, hit that like button. At number 7, we got Marvin Harrison, Maserati Marv, formerly of the Ohio State University, now of the Arizona Cardinals, underdog ADP wide receiver 9 at pick 13.1. Now, I know some people are going to instantly see my ranking of Marvin Harrison Jr. and think, Nick, you're fucking crazy. Nick, how can you have a rookie wide receiver ranked this high? For one, I will tell you that Maserati Marv is an amazing prospect. This guy it would make your eyes ejaculate when you watched an Ohio State game. 2023 at Ohio State, 12 games played, 117 targets, 67 receptions, 1,211 yards, 18.1 yards per reception. And on top of that, the icing on the cake here, 14 total touchdowns back-to-back years with 1,200 plus receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. That is 28 total touchdowns in 2 years and over 2,400 yards. Marvin Harrison is cracked. Marvin Harrison is amazing. Now, again, I get why you might be nervous to draft a rookie wide receiver this early. But we just saw what Puke Nacua did. We just talked about Puke Nacua. Marvin Harrison is in an offense that outside of Trey McBride, Danny McBride's cousin, they're just deprived of weaponry. There is nothing there. So Marvin Harrison is going to get force-fed the rock. Marvin Harrison is going to see a boatload of touches. He's just going to. Watch the college tape. You think about, a lot of people love to shit on Kyler as well. Kyler's a guy that's a punching bag because he's as tall as a fan that would be sitting in your room or something, like one of those fans that's on the ground, right? He's like little Uzi Vert's height. But at the end of the day, doesn't matter because Kyler's really good. And there's a reason why he was drafted. There's a reason why Marvin Harrison was drafted so high. He is that good. He really is. And I can really see in Arizona. Kyler just dialing it in on him, laser eyes focused onto him, and Marvin Harrison just having a fantastic rookie season. Top 5, top 3, maybe even number 1 is a possibility for Marvin Harrison. The only thing stopping me from ranking him in the B tier with Puke Nacua is just I feel a lot more confident in a guy that I've already seen do it at the NFL level. So I'm kind of, in a way, saying like, oh, in a way, I think people are being scared not ranking Marvin Harrison higher. But in a way, I'm almost kind of scared as well, not putting him inside the B tier. But hey, that's kind of just how I feel. At number 8, we got A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. Underdog ADP wide receiver 7 at pick 10.2. So I almost said 106.7 light FM. What I was going to actually say, though, on the Realio is that A.J. Brown is a guy that doesn't really excite me to draft him. And it's not because I think A.J. Brown is dust. A.J. Brown is just entering the prime of his career. I think A.J. Brown could have a huge year. But there's just something about the Eagles where I feel like they might end up not being as good as we would think they are going to be. And the fact is, I just don't think that A.J. Brown is the most consistent guy out there, right? I feel like compared to a guy like Puka, compared to a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, I just don't think the consistency will be there as much with A.J. Brown. And again, while I throw some worries out there about the Eagles as a whole, how is Jalen Hurts going to be without Jason Kelce? What's going to happen? There are a lot of concerns racing around my brain. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, I'm not going to sit here and bury A.J. Brown, dig him 6 feet under, right? Because he's still really good. Wide receiver 5 last year in PPR, 8 in PPR points per game, 17 games played, 8th in targets, 7th in receptions, 5th in receiving yards, and 18th in total touchdowns. I do think that if Devontae Smith is able to maybe play a little, get more involved than he was last year, that could hurt A.J. Brown, which again is just another worry of mine. But I'm not going to sit here and just yap for an hour about why I hate A.J. Brown or why I think you should be nervous about him. Because while I am slightly nervous, I'm not going to make a video in August saying you need to full fade A.J. Brown, saying you can't draft A.J. Brown. I just don't like him as much as some other people will. Again, I have him ranked 1 spot lower than the ADP. So that should tell you that, like, I'm not, like, all hands off when it comes to A.J. Brown. 10th in target accuracy, 9th in yards per out run, 7th in yards per team pass attempt, 15th in dominator rating. Again, A.J. Brown is really good. I have my concerns, but he's a top 10 guy regardless. At number 9, we got Garrett Wilson. Now, this is where I considered a potential tier break, right, of moving from C to the D tier, keep Maserati, Marvin, A.J. Brown in the C, and then move Garrett Wilson down to D. And while I was kind of off the Garrett Wilson hype train last year, I wasn't as confident in Garrett Wilson because I kind of wanted to see it with Aaron Rodgers before I really believed it. Ultimately, Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year, so we didn't get to see it. But now I feel a little bit more confident in him. And it's because I feel as though they have more weapons now in New York. They have an offensive line that isn't a complete and utter turnstile. And I think that's going to help out the offense a ton. I don't think Garrett Wilson needs Aaron Rodgers to be... We talked about this with Breece Hall, right? I don't think these guys need Aaron Rodgers to be the back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers for a guy with the skill set of Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson to succeed. Underdog ADP, wide receiver 8, pick 11.2. Wide receiver 26 in PPR last year, 33 in PPR points per game. Again, put the stats into context. 17 games played, he had 168 fucking targets. 9.9 per game, number 4, but only 95 receptions. Why is that? Because Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian suck more hog, I guess. We used log earlier. Suck more hog than fucking Riley Reid, okay? 22nd in receiving yards, 58th in total touchdowns, target accuracy at 76th, no bueno, 11th in total route wins. So I think with just a better version of quarterbacking, right? If Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, knock on wood, we hope he can stay healthy. This feels like a humongous year for Garrett Wilson. At number 10, we got Drizzy Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons, underdog ADP wide receiver 10 at pick 15.3. Last year, not the best year for Drake London. Wide receiver 37 in PPR, 44 in PPR points per game, 24th in targets, He had 69 receptions. Very nice. I like. 30th in receiving yards, and 76th in total touchdowns with just 2. Again, context is key. 16 games played. Desmond Ridder playing quarterback for the team, right? The quarterback situation in Hotlanta was a hot mess, right? This is like the exact opposite of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith, right? He gets his life turned all upside down, and he's got to move with his auntie and uncle to Bel-Air, right? Whole life turned upside down. This is going to be like his whole life got turned upside down, but in a good way, right? Because now Kirk Thuggins, Kirk O'Chains, Coles Cash Kirk, now in Atlanta. And look, say again, this is another guy. Say what you fucking want about Kirk Cousins. The guy chokes in prime time, this, that, and the other thing, right? Go ahead and say it. Go ahead. But Kirk Cousins is miles ahead of the quarterback play that we have seen in Atlanta. So again, while Drake London's stats aren't mouth-watering, Drake London is really good. The reason, again, this is another guy. He was drafted very high in the NFL draft when he came out. He was the 8th overall pick. 8th overall pick, also Bijan. Also Michael Penix. But yeah, Drake London with Kirk Cousins, I think the upside's super high. Does feel kind of like the second round. I will note the second round this year feels a little rough as of right now. Drake London is a second round pick, which on paper feels gross, but I do actually think that in a lot of your more casual leagues, right? You're playing with your friends, you're playing with the people from work. I think Drake London will be a late second rounder, whereas in Underdog right now, he's an early second rounder. So moving now to the D tier. Now, there are more players in the D tier than just the 2 I've listed, but we're only doing the top 12. Top 24 coming soon. The D tier begins with Brandon Aiyuk of the San Francisco 49ers. Underdog ADP, wide receiver 11 at pick 18.2. Now, despite the fact that a lot of people love talking about Deebo Samuel, I really think that Brandon Aiyuk might be one of the most underappreciated or one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. Now, if you actually look at his efficiency, you'll see that the guy's amazing, but his stats don't necessarily tell that tale. And if Deebo Samuel gets booted metaphorically out of San Francisco, then Brandon Aiyuk is going to be a guy that is not just going to be the wide receiver 11. He's moving all the way up like that Drake song, right? He is moving up in a big way if Deebo Samuel's gone. If Deebo Samuel's still there, I will still like Brandon Aiyuk, but he'll be in at wide receiver 11, 12, that range. Again, all these rankings are subject to change. Things are going to happen. ADP is going to change. I guess the ADP wouldn't matter for the rankings at all, so I discard that. But things are going to change in the offseason. Some of these guys might get dinged up. Knock on wood, we don't root for injuries. Their quarterback could get hurt. All types of things that would affect their rankings. Like, again, Deebo could get hurt. Deebo could get traded, and that would drastically move Brandon Aiyuk. So wide receiver 14 in PPR, 15 in PPR points per game, 16 games played. He was 30th in targets, 24th in receptions, 7th in receiving yards, and 18th in total touchdowns. But the efficiency stats are amazing. Beautiful. It's like seeing a pair of boobs for the first time, man. It's beautiful. 3rd in yards per route run, 2nd in yards per target, feels like a bag of sand, 2nd in yards per reception, and 9th in true catch rate. Guy's really good. Brock Purdy's another guy, kind of gets slung through the mud. I don't think Brock Purdy's amazing, but he's good enough for Brandon Aiyuk. So again, Brandon Aiyuk, if Deebo's gone, skyrocketing him up. If not, I think he feels like a fair top 12 wide receiver to close out the top 12. Number 12, wiki, DJ Moore. Now, I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this. I really do. But DJ Moore, Underdog ADP, wide receiver 16, pick 25.2. Wide receiver 6 last year in PPR, 9 in PPR points per game. Again, context. This is with Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent. Right? Before the season, if you said the name last season, if you said the name Tyson Bagent, it would be like Conor McGregor. Who the fuck is that guy, right? Who is that guy? Tyson Bagent. Who is that? Okay? And yet, DJ Moore put up these numbers. He was 14th in targets, 12th in receptions, 6th in receiving yards, and 10th in total touchdowns. Almost 10 total touchdowns. 35th in target accuracy, 8th in contested catch percentage, and 4th in dominator rating. Now, I know where people, they might be ecstatic about Caleb Williams, but the downside is, Keenan Allen's there. They drafted Roma Dunze. Okay, right? while that can be considered a negative, you also have to understand that, in my opinion, DJ Moore is still, and I think this should be the opinion of most, DJ Moore is still the number one guy. I'm not saying that Keenan Allen can't play football anymore, but Keenan Allen is 1 year older than he was last year, and he was already old last year. Rome Odunze is a rookie. He is a rookie. So while I think Rome Odunze might start firing at all cylinders as we get deeper into the season, I think early on we're going to see DJ Moore establish that dominance, that presence as the alpha number one guy in the Chicago Bears wide receiver room early on with Caleb Williams. And I think that is going to continue throughout the season. I think DJ Moore is good enough to finish where he did last year as a top 6 guy. I'm not going to get crazy and start ranking him top 10 or anything like that because, again, there are drawbacks to having Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze there, and there are drawbacks regardless of how much everyone wants to give the Gawk 9,000 fucking special, just slobbering on his knob like it's corn on the cob to Caleb Williams. I know people love Caleb Williams. I know. I know. I like him too. But people are going to really worry about the fact too many cooks in the kitchen and still think DJ Moore will be able to prevail. Now, if we get to late August and there's a lot of reports coming out like, oh, look at this. Seems like Caleb Williams is not favoring DJ Moore. He actually really likes Rome Odunze. He really likes Keenan Allen. Then you watch him preseason, you're like, holy shit, he's like, when he looks for DJ Moore, he's Ray Charles. He can't see him, right? And then I'm going to be like, okay, backpedal, reverse, turn that shit around, right? Back up. But right now, we don't have to back up because it's May. These are our early takes. You're not going to crucify me for something I say in May. So far away. And right now, when I'm doing my underdog drafts, I'm drafting DJ Moore because I really do think he could be a top 12 receiver. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, subscribe button down below. Make sure you guys leave a like on today's video. Whether you are new to the channel or not, I love you guys all so much. We're going to take a break Saturday, Sunday, and be back Monday with another video. So I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great one. And as always, good boy. Check out one of the videos on the screen if you haven't said it already. Goodbye.